Welcome to Punk Rock Anthropology, where we talk about punk culture within media, music, film, TV, and of course, music. I'm really excited today because we're here in Austin, Texas, the Mohawk, one of my favorite venues, and we're here to see the Venomous Pinks open up for the Toasters and Less Than Jake. So, let's do just a quick introduction of who y'all are and instruments, I guess, as well.
I'm Cassie Jalili. I play drums. Drea play guitar and yell and scream. Gabby sing.
Yeah. Well, I definitely just want to dive into it since, we got a show to play. But I definitely want to talk what it's like living in Mesa, Arizona and being part of that punk community there and just kind of touch about how that influences your music today, how it influences you when you were younger as well.
The punk community in Mesa is, we all know each other.
Yeah, everybody knows everybody.
Everybody knows everybody, and yeah, it's very feels together, and
Yeah, I mean, it's all, not just Mesa, but like Tempe, Phoenix, it's all just one giant cluster, so, and the scene out there is just amazing. Like, you can go on a Tuesday, Monday night, Yucca, and there's a punk show. There's people there. There's, local scene. But yeah, it's thriving right now. Like, there's just stands, like, every night of the week, you can just go in.
Yeah, Yucca Tap Room always seems to be hopping. Like, that's one of the venues I follow in America, and it's definitely on my list to visit.
Now it has an arcade bar.
Oh shit! Okay.
yeah,
Expanding an arcade.
That's all you had to say.
yeah.
That's all you had to say.
Yeah, if you want to catch a good punk rock show, just head over to the Yucca Tap Room, Tempe. That's where we got our start for a long time, and yeah, there's just a sense of community out there, and everybody supports each other, and it's really a special thing to be from there. Yeah,
I think so. All right. Well, definitely one of my favorite things about your band visually and just altogether is that I feel like you guys use a lot of your punk community. Like, for example, you had Soma on "I Want You" as the cover. It's such a badass move. And also you had Lynn Lee as your producer on your last release. Um, is this a way to highlight the community or like kind of build stronger ties, or like what is your inspiration for that?
So the thing with Selma is she's always just been a supporter since day one.
Yeah.
We met her at Punk Rock Bowling actually, and it was one of those things where she was with Mike.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, we should give them the CD, and then it was like, well, let's just give it to Selma because she'll probably give a shit and listen to it.
Right.
She did.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So that was, I think, in like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
And ever since then, we've just kind of been in each other's orbit.
Yeah.
So, like, she'll involve us in Sidewalk Project, and we thought, when we were coming out with the "I Want You" cover, we kind of wanted to do like a tribute to the Blink 182 album cover with the nurse and everything.
Yeah.
Like, well, who could we add on it? And so Cassie was like, let's ask Soma.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just kind of incorporating their community with us and just kind of help promoting Sidewalk Project and Stacy and Soma. And then with Lynn, like same thing with Bad Cop. I went to the Yucca to go see Bad Cop because I kept seeing this name, Bad Cop everywhere. And so it was one of those things where I was like, I'm by myself, but I'm going to go and introduce myself. And so, yeah, that friendship just developed from there. I love everyone's songwriting in Bad Cop, but I really, really relate to how Lynn writes.
Yes.
Because, it does have like a little punkier edge to it.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of where I was like, hey, would you want to help produce our album? And because I feel like you and I vibe together.
Right.
So that's kind of how that happened.
Yeah, I think everybody in Back Hop is an excellent writer, but yeah, they all have their kind of unique thing they bring to the table.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Lynn. I can tell when it's a Lynn song, which is great.
Yeah.
That's fine. But kind of speaking of that, so your band tends to have a various mix of punk style. So you sometimes it's street punk to kind of more pop, and then even you have like kind of a musical type moment. Like I said, for example, like on your last release, if I'm saying this right, Venomous. Okay. There's like these killer gang vocals, and then, like I said, like a musical moment. Can you talk kind of more about like the songwriting process and what kind of, I guess, makes it your own style?
I think we just write what we like. We don't stick to one thing. Like, like you can say that one of the bands we tour with, like it's one specific style, and like we just somehow fit with everybody.
It's like our interpretation is usually it'll start out with like a riff, something small, like Hold On was Gabby, just that intro was just her bass line, and then we just build off of it. And then, same thing with her with like a riff or something, and we'll all just get into a room and just hash it out and just jam out and see. Sometimes we'll just keep playing it over and over and over again, and then, we always record it and we're like, oh, we go back and listen, oh, this part sounds good, like let's keep that. And,
Well, what is part of your rock? What is part of your songwriting process, especially as a drummer?
Mine, so actually recently what I started doing was, I started, because we live in different states. I'm from California and I live in LA. So we go back and forth, for shows and for practice and stuff. Yeah. So what I've been doing recently is like I'll just record on my phone or like just do just like a drum beat, just like a maybe like 10-second drum beat, and then I send it to them, and then they just come up with something off of that.
Yeah, because I was very curious. Is like obviously you live in different states, and depending on what kind of position you want as a drummer, you're like, here I'm just here to be the bass and the backbone, or you're like, I really enjoy the songwriting process.
Oh
so
yeah,
that's
definitely.
Cool. Yeah, my spouse does videos.
Oh, cool.
He's like, I'm thinking about this, and I'm gonna send it to the group chat or something. So I mean, I figured it was something kind of along those lines.
Yeah, it's really a long distance relationship,
right?
To make it work, is like songwriting process. Yeah. But the three of us individually, like you listed street punk, pop punk, and like hardcore melodic, like that's all three of us, and somehow we throw it all together and it just works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, it just like she said, we write what we like.
Yeah. Well, one thing is I kind of admire. I'm kind of going out path here, but I think there's a certain way that the punk, I guess, music industry expects women to sound in a certain way, just because it's just the pattern of what has been released, been controlled, whatever. But what I like about y'all is that, we can do kind of this sweet kind of pop stuff, because we enjoy it, but it's not something that we have to stick to or rules we have to abide by. I am definitely kind of orange street punk girl on the side. Also love Lady Gaga is whatever,
Same.
But
yeah, I love Lady Gaga.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think it's just one thing, but can you just talk about how like trying to break out of that mold is possible?
It's hard, because when people think of girl bands, they think of like Bikini Kill or L7, and like actually the other day,
we get that.
The other day at the show, some guy came up to me. He was like, "You guys sounded like Bikini Kill," and I was like,
"We get Joan Jett a lot too."
Thank you, but we don't.
I think it's because that's all they know.
Yeah,
they only know a select few, and they're like, "You sound just like them," and we're like, "I don't know."
I think what we really need is, tours like this where we have the bigger bands bringing in more women musicians and women bands to, show people out there like, hey, like this is what's happening right now.
Right.
And so I think that's how.
Which was awesome in Europe because it was just us and Bad Cop for the most part.
Yeah.
So many people, like so many women and even little girls came up to us and they're like, this is amazing. Like we never see women, let alone only women. Like the whole bill was just women. Like, and like,
hoping for that. And
we talked about it. We're like, we need to bring this back home to the States. Like this needs to be a thing.
Yeah, the closest thing they had here last year was Bad Cop and Faya. And I was like, best show of the year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Hands down.
Because most of the time, like now, it's just us. We're the only ones, touring and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. But I was saying, like, kind of on the flips, like, speaking of the Donnas, I'm like, why are you not considered Ramones for? Like, why are you not in that conversation on the flip side? Or when I kind of think out, I was like, kind of remind me of the Drowns a little bit, honestly, or something like that. That's why I'm like, I just don't understand why people have to feel the need to categorize things in certain ways, you know.
Yeah, just gotta figure out how to break that cycle.
I know.
It's cool when dudes are like, "You sound like Motorhead."
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's what I was listening to
like
this morning.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I'll take it. I'm gonna put that in my pocket. So I definitely want to talk more about your latest release as well. So you're on Spamp Records. I'm hoping I say it right. Which this is your first full length, right? Which is wonderful. You should definitely read about it on my blog, but we'll speak about that later. Do you think this label and the release seem to kind of pull all of the hard work that you've been doing for years at this point together? And like, is this, do you think, affecting your career in a positive note?
I mean, they definitely helped us. They definitely helped with like the back end,
Mm-hmm.
but end up promotion and obviously getting records. Yeah, it helped with end up promotion and obviously getting records. Yeah, it's helped with everything.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the label. Dear friend's boss's daughter on there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. We were just played a show with singer.
Yeah, Chris Fox.
Chris.
He's a wonderful person. Definitely a road warrior.
Yeah.
But I also like the fact that they'll take a chance on someone like, you know, Boss's daughter, y'all, plus like public servants. There's so many great people on that label. And I feel like personally this is a very good positive thing because y'all are just as big to me as public servants or something like that. So I think it's a really good fit. And plus, I wanted a full length for a very long time. But
it's nice that they're bringing in something new too.
Yeah.
I mean, you have all the OGs who've been around for like 20, 30 years,
yes.
which is cool. But it's like they're not going to be around forever, you know. So it's like we need to keep, you know, punk rock is still alive. Right?
Yeah, and I feel like that's one thing will kill a label faster than anything is if you're not future or forward thinking, especially if you're not having other types of musicians, female musicians, non-binary, whatever. Like that's not the world we live in anymore, or at least we don't want to. So like, please try something new. You know, like one of my favorite things is Fat Records doing folk punk. Never thought that would ever happen. And it turns out and that turns out to be like really huge and something that's been happening here for a long time, but like nobody else knew because, you know, not a lot of us are hanging out in Houston. Right. So, I mean, I see it as a positive for sure. And kind of on that note, I definitely want to speak about kind of the representation in the punk scene. Do you feel like it's gotten better in positive ways, or is there something kind of still lacking that you're kind of wanting to see?
It's definitely getting better for women.
Yeah.
Bigger bands, bringing smaller bands, females. It's fucking amazing to see more women at shows and on stage. So
yeah,
I mean, 5-10 years ago, like most women bands like weren't even talking to each other. So like, now there's like a community around it, and like you pretty much know like every female band that's out there. Like, so 5 years ago, it's like it's totally different.
Yeah. Yeah, I also kind of grew up around the same time, and I was like, I always felt like there was only like 12 women in the audience, or just like that. Or I used to really into hardcore, and then I was just like, I'm tired of just being the only person here, and just it's way too aggro. I love it now. I go all the time. There's just so much more women there, and it's just a better space. But I don't know. I just feel that there's a lot of women, I think, that look like us specifically that are such a huge part of the punk rock movement and scene that I just feel a lot of us should be showcasing our work or using our voices a lot more because we are doing work behind the scenes, front, whatever, but I don't know. It's hard being such a big part the scene and the patchwork of everything, but still kind of not getting the due or the understanding.
Yeah, like there's a huge like LA underground backyard scene, and it's nothing but Chicanas and Chicanos, and like so like it's super important to try to promote those kind of bands and play shows with them when you can. Mm-hmm. And
I follow a lot of live shows on TikTok from under the LA bridges and backyards.
Yes.
And like it's almost like a carbon copy here too. Like from Dallas all the way down to Mexico looks like that too. And it's just weird to me, like when you see it on the internet or on, heaven forbid, MTV or something, like it's just a piece of the picture seems to be missing, because like that's our reality, but why is it not part of the overall internet media like reality? So I kind of, my point is, I think having people like us being more vocal and visible just helps us realize that we're not the only ones out here, even though we're really not the only ones out here, and that, I don't know, I always make it a rule to talk to at least 2 women at a show.
Yeah. The other thing too is like, well, now, like Gabby said, like 10 years ago it was such like a competition between each other, but now it's like we have communities like Mabel Syndrome where you can like meet up with different Mabels and have that type of community too. The one thing I really loved about this tour was that most of the shows were all ages. So we were having like little girls come up to us and having that like holy shit moment, like this is the band that's like sparking something inside of me, and I was like, whoa.
Definitely in a moment of hope this past year, the Lindas came and played a free all ages show here, and it was literally the most heartwarming thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, this is what I've been dreaming about forever. It's like, oh, there's gonna be more, thank God. And then we hard styled in front of their little backdrop. They are hardcore. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
Or they might, but still. But let me ask you one more question since we do have time. It's like, I'm really impressed by how all y'all kind of wear many hats and create many different things. I guess, where does this drive come from?
We're just always doing stuff.
Let me. I have a lot of thoughts on that I will not continue, because I also have 3 jobs. We're not living or thriving or surviving. There's.
What is sleep? I always say that.
Yeah. Honestly, being told no. That drives us to be like, fuck you. Yes, we can. So.
And kind of what I'm referencing, if you're just arrived on this channel and planet, Gabby runs Chaos Merch, which just opened. That was really cool to see that process, honestly, because it's a rough gig, and you should absolutely order merch from her. But and then it's like, y'all had a podcast as well, which was Sound Sisters, and you know
kind of low right now.
Yeah, I absolutely understand that as someone who has a podcast themselves. It's a lot of work. But I'm just like, how do you, it's hard enough having a band and being your booking, your practicing, your roadie, like all this stuff, but you always seem to still be resilient to enough to do something else on top of that to keep that momentum and that conversation going. So it's like really impressive that you can multitask different almost entrepreneurships at this point. When some people are just being bands, which is fun too, but yeah. Yeah. You're like, I want to keep doing this. This is probably why, like there is no other alternative. This is, yeah, exactly. I appreciate it. All right. Well, is there anything you want to plug coming up? I know you're probably going to take a very nice, well-deserved break after touring in Europe right before this tour we're talking about right now. So don't bother them for at least a week after this tour.
probably be bored.
Yeah.
Unless it's your mother or your family or someone's dying, then yes. But other than that, they'll get back to you. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the house closed right now. I'm here.
Yeah.
So after a week.
Yeah. Can we go visit your mom if she's there? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's my favorite is watching your mom print koozies. I don't know why. Yeah. I was like, I mean, that's like such a Mexican way of life. Like, they were like, yeah, I'll come help you on a Wednesday after. You're like, what am I doing? Like, whatever, like, I live in that life too.
She brings her chihuahuas too.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I feel that. Actually, my spouse's tour van is my dad's, and he is white. Okay. He was very afraid to ask for a favor, and I'm like, that's not how this works. And so I was like, just ask for the favor, and he wouldn't. He's like, I like you too much to ask your dad for a favor. I'm like, you don't get it. So I asked my father, and I'm like, hey, can he borrow the van? He's like, yeah. Well, why didn't he ask me? And I'm like, because he's afraid. And I was like, and now that's how they're actually touring now is due to my family's niceness. But I told him, I was like, there's always a caveat. There's always a thing. I was like, he's going to ask you to do something real dumb that he doesn't want to do out of nowhere, and you're going to have a day's notice. And he's like, okay. He had to go move furniture Wednesday at 8 a.m. Yeah. So, that's just the breaks, but I think he's really enjoying that aspect of living in that family because he never really had that. So he's like, oh, this is super nice that people, if they want to get something done, it happens, But I think that's something we've had to do for so long that it just is a second nature and it's not even a question anymore, But I also really appreciate about the punk community, like my dear friend David here recording, like we try to collab and lift each other up and do stuff like that. And I just feel that's one of the best things about punk rock, period, no matter where you're at. It's like you get to know your local community. And then when you go to Europe, everybody kind of understands like that's just how it goes. And this is what we respect. So
it's much more than just, the bands writing music and playing music.
Yeah.
It's everyone else, photographers, promoters, artists,
Yeah.
our guy Paul in England, in the UK, who does all of our artwork
Yeah.
for Basis Against Racist. It's like everyone's together, everyone who makes it happen. It's like the whole community,
Sure.
highlighting each other.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for making this happen. I know it's been a long process and long summer for y'all, so thank you so much. And absolutely, if you've not checked out Venomous Pinks, then I don't know what the hell you're doing with your life, honestly. But like I said, they have a review on our channel. There are definitely links on Spotify. You can find you on Spamp Records website for their latest release. Obviously, you have your own website and Bandcamp and streaming, and a YouTube actually. Yeah, just Google it. Yeah, and definitely catch them on tour. I have a feeling there's something probably can't talk about yet, but good coming down the line. Yes. Oh,
For Hold On.
That's also my favorite band. So yes, look out for the new music video coming out as well. All right, thank you guys. Thank you.